right decision based on all the empirical data, everything that we've received from the Canadian Forces, from all of the experts, and from the commentary that has come from those in the aerospace industry. The F-35 is by far the best choice. And I think we would suffer on two fronts. It would cost jobs, were we to cancel the contract now or to step back from a process that was put in place some years ago by a previous Liberal government. But it would also, in my view, potentially leave us open to an operational gap.
That was the Defense Minister, Peter MacKay. He was in Winnipeg today talking about radar. That was the announcement, but he also spent some time talking about the acquisition of the F-35 stealth jet fighters. And joining us now to talk about this, retired Lieutenant General George Macdonald, once the #2 man in the Canadian Forces and a top boss at NORAD. He now works for defense lobbying firm CFN Consultants, that is representing Lockheed Martin on the F-35. And Stephen Staples is the director of the Rideau Institute on International Affairs, an Ottawa-based think tank. Mr. Macdonald, could you give us your best sales pitch for Canadians who are still dubious? Why this plane at this price? Is it good for us?
It certainly is good for us. I mean, we have kept the F-18, the predecessor to this aircraft, in service, will be in service for about 35 years by the time it's retired. And we need to, if we're going to address the issues of an unpredictable future, to give the Canadian Forces a capability that's relevant and able to be upgraded and maintained for 35 or 40 years, we need a fighter that's frontline, that's capable of a wide variety of multi-role capabilities that will serve us for that period.
It's not inexpensive.
No, it's not inexpensive at all. And these sorts of things are expensive. It's not expensive compared to what we spent on the F-18 some 25 years ago, but it is a major defense expenditure. By buying the JSF, the F-35, with partner nations in a joint partnership, we will be able to contain the costs for the acquisition of the aircraft due to the economies of scale and participate in a global supply chain for the sustainment of it throughout its lifetime.
Now, there are some concerns, and I'll ask Stephen Staples about this first. I'll let you rebut if you feel it's required. The plane itself, is it true that the F-35 is slower than the Hornet?
Well, if you look
less maneuverable?
Well, certainly on the speed aspect, if you read the brochures, it is not by much, but it's not faster.
Well, for a plane that's 35 years old, the Hornet's pretty quick.
It has been a reliable airframe, that's for sure, for the Air Force, and I'm sure the General can attest to that. But it's not faster. You see, the United States is developing another plane besides this, which they are holding back. They are not allowing other countries to buy. The Joint Strike Fighter is the one that they are trying to get everyone else to purchase. But it's not as fast. Really what it is it's a bomb truck, as some people have described it. It's really made for carrying large amounts of weapons, great distance, in kind of a shock and awe mission that we saw in Iraq in 2003. And I really think that's why it's inappropriate for Canada in terms of defending the Arctic, because it's not really designed for that. It's really designed for kind of stealth attacks on a country like Iran or Iraq.
What do we use fighter jets for now?
Well, we use fighters for participating in NORAD with the Americans to defend our continental airspace. It's used for sovereignty patrols, for that sort of thing. It's for defense of Canada, defense of North America.
But we don't use them overseas.
Well, we have obligations with NATO to provide fighters for certain missions from time to time. We have done it in the past. It may happen in the future. It hasn't happened in Afghanistan recently.
What, Bosnia the last time?
Yes, Kosovo.
Yes.
The reality, though, is that the maneuverability of the aircraft and the speed aren't really the main issue. This is a capable, maneuverable, fast airplane. But it will have sensors and data fusion capabilities that surpass anything that we can imagine now. We'll have a spherical situational awareness system that will allow the pilot through a helmet-mounted display to see anywhere. It'll be able to do that at night. It'll have infrared capability. It will have good sensors for detection of targets or threats.
And it flies a long distance.
Absolutely. And it does carry armament, of course. It carries that internally to keep it stealthy, so it can do covert surveillance. It's much more than a fighter. It's a multi-role aircraft with surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities as well.
I think that's one of the points, Dan, is that we did a paper in October which really questioned, we know why companies like Lockheed Martin and the Air Force, who are the main backers of this now. It's the military and the defense industry are the two main backers at this point. And sometimes it's getting a little hard to tell the difference when retired military personnel are now representing those companies. But the thing is that we need to look at what we actually need. In terms of deploying aircraft internationally on bombing missions, we've only done it once in the 30 years that we've had F-18. So do we really need to have stealth capability and all this extra equipment that's designed to drop bombs on other countries? We probably need something here in North America. A lot of Canadians support NORAD. We probably need to replace the CF-18s at some point. But look, we just spent $2.6 billion upgrading our current fleet of CF-18s. They're going to be fine until the end of this decade. We've got lots of time. There's no hurry at this point.
We do need a multi-purpose jet fighter, right? Is that a given? We need what? You're not saying we don't buy anything.
No, I think we can replace the F-18s. That clearly people are hijacking airplanes and crashing them into buildings in North America.
So if we
need some kind
if we don't buy the F-35, what do we buy?
I think we've got time to look around. There's been lots of people saying we should have a competition. We should look at what the range of aircraft are going to be out there. The F-35 is still really in development. It's very new right now. It's not in full production. There's a lot of questions about what its performance is going to be. We don't know how much it's going to cost to maintain.
But I understand the argument is there is nothing else available in the F-35's group.
If we're serious about having capabilities that will be relevant for a long period of time, the F-35 is really the only choice. I mean, the Air Force and the Canadian Forces have done an extensive analysis of what the capabilities they feel they will need for an uncertain future, for whatever may happen in the future. They've compared that with all the capabilities of other contenders and have come up with a recommendation that the F-35 is the choice. If we delay and try to have a competition or consider something else, we run the risk of not having an aircraft that will be able to be delivered during the time when the F-18 is phased out. We also have a number of industrial capabilities that are being exercised as a result of the Joint Strike Fighter program. Companies in Canada are getting contracts. They're earning money as a result of our participation in this project.
It was interesting to me that the defense minister mentioned the first thing he said, that we have to go ahead with this because, well, look what will happen. We'll lose jobs. The first thing he said, he didn't say this is the best piece of hardware. He said we'll lose jobs.
That's right. The government, I think, has basically given up trying to explain why we need this aircraft, because it's kind of obvious. You don't need stealth fighters to patrol the Arctic against these old Russian bombers. And if in case of a hijacked commercial aircraft, well, again, you don't need a stealth fighter to hopefully never has to happen, but to take something down before it does worse damage, crash into a building or something like that. So it's about the jobs, but the real interesting thing about that, Dan, is that in previous contracts, including with Lockheed Martin on the C-130Js, a bunch of aircraft we've just bought, they required the company to invest an equal amount of money.
Those are the new Hercules you're talking about.
That's right. So usually it's for every dollar we spend, that company has to invest it in Canada. In this particular program, we have not done that. We're leaving it up to Lockheed Martin, a U.S.-based company that has its own job requirements in the U.S. to deal with, out of the kind of the goodness of their hearts, to deliver contracts to Canadian companies and all the other countries that are also buying this aircraft to their industry as well. What we really should have, if we're concerned about jobs, is a required amount of investment in Canada to assure that those jobs are done right here.
I have to say, I don't speak for Lockheed Martin. I work with Lockheed Martin, but the idea of the numbers of jobs, the dollars that Canada will get from the equivalent of industrial regional benefits for this project is huge. I mean, the acquisition portion of the program is about $9 billion, not all of which is spending money to purchase things from Lockheed Martin, but
and we haven't heard all the details on this yet, right?
Well, people speak without a full slate of what the facts are. I mean, there'll be $12 billion worth of identified opportunities for Canadian industry just with the acquisition portion of the program.
Well, $12 billion we can bid on, not 16.
We're all going to watch this one. We'll probably continue debating. Thank you very much, gentlemen.